as the fundamental modernist controversy took off, people began raising great epistemological questions about their source of truth. Some adhered stringently to what had been, which was the Bible, oftentimes closing the door to a lot of education and science, and these people fell on the more fundamental side. Whereas those who were more open to science and new discovery, but often looser in their interpretation or even adherence to the Bible, fell on the modern side. Now, caught in the middle of this was one man, Harry Emerson Fosdick, who gave the speech, "Shall the Fundamentalist Win?" costing him his job at New York City's First Presbyterian, due to his very strong modernist view. Now, what Fosdick asserts epistemologically is two things. He asserts that truth is gained through experience, thus he is strongly promoting empiricism, and he asserts that the value of truth is determined by its practical application, thus pragmatism. Now, to go through his empiricism, he first makes the assertion that a great mass of new knowledge has come into man's possession on the first page of his speech. Now, what he means by that is a lot of the new scientific discovery, a lot of new things taught in education, such as theories of evolution and of human origins, which were strongly rejected by those in the fundamental camp. He states that the two should not be separated and are not irreconcilable, and he is very critical of fundamentalists. On the second page, he criticizes what he calls their special theory of inspiration and their idea that the Bible is inherently dictated to men. Now, in doing so, he reflects the sentiments of another empiricist named David Hume, who, in the 6th page of the empiricism packet, in his second paragraph, asserts that knowledge could not arise from the suggestion of some invisible or unknown spirit. So, what both men essentially assert, epistemologically, is that some simple written words could not be the sum total or the final binding source of knowledge, but rather there's additional knowledge to be gained through experience. I mean, with Fosdick, it would clearly be science, observation, experimentation, as he is quite open to such things as the evolutionary interpretation and accepting what seems to be the standard of modern biology in his denial of the virgin birth. Now, furthermore, he goes out to criticize fundamentalists for wanting what he claims are laws against teaching modern biology. And by making that criticism, he essentially reinforces his empirical viewpoint by arguing that it is bad to go against teaching, because teaching, by his standard as an empiricist, is how knowledge is ascertained. And he further reflects this once again on the third page. I mean, he said it on the second page talking about biology laws. Third page, he talks about how educated people are looking for religion outside of the churches. Once again, he seems to be indicating that educated people are the knowledgeable people, and when you get them outside of the churches, that cannot be a good thing. So we need to be more open to allowing these people with education into the churches, and being more open to modern science, not holding the very closed door that the fundamentalists would have. Now, on to pragmatism. Pragmatism is essentially the view that truth of beliefs is determined by how successfully they guide our actions. And William James makes the assertion on the first page of the secondary epistemology packet in his third paragraph that what experiences will be different from those which would obtain if the belief were false. What is truth's cash value in experiential terms? So he asks the question, essentially, what gives truth value is how it affects experience and how it affects conduct and how it produces results. And this is reflected by Fosdick, who once again complains about how fundamentalists are so stringent on little matters that he would talk about, such small matters like the virgin birth or evolution, which he insists are very small matters, by asserting that the fundamentalists tithe mint and anise and cumin and quarrel over them when the world is perishing over the lack of weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. And in doing so, he essentially states that while the points of doctrine that the fundamentalists adhere so strongly to may have some application, they don't produce results, and in fact, by being so strident on them, people are actually driven away from the church, which he states is not a great thing. So really, he's invalidating such doctrinal matters based on the fact that they aren't producing results by bringing people into the church and spreading the message of justice, of mercy, or compassion. He further emphasizes such point by saying that educated kids not thinking in terms that leave ideas of progress out is what we want. In other words, he thinks the whole point of thinking and the whole point to ascertaining knowledge is to bring forth an issue of progress, as he complains very clearly that fundamentalist thinking will, on page 4, as he asserts, shuts the door of Christian fellowship out to those who think in terms that don't leave progress out, as page 4 once again asserts. So, in conclusion, Fosdick's speech is defined by two key epistemological views, that being empiricism, that truth is gained through experience, which he defines as education, such as scientific discovery, observation, not necessarily the Bible, which is God's inerrant, inspired, and infallible word, which is perfect and final in all matters, binding. He would argue rather that experience has a role to play, and a very strong, very powerful role. And then he would also, as his second epistemology, he would argue that pragmatism is of great value, as it really is what produces results in the church. It brings forth progress through showing love, mercy, compassion, and that's what determines the value of such truth as upheld by the church. Thank you, and that concludes this presentation.